Hello everyone, in this video I'll be ranking the best Vault Hunters in Borderlands 4 on a tier list. Now, some of the Vault Hunters are much more powerful than the others, and I'll be breaking down all of that in this video based on the different skill trees that they have. And yeah, what you saw there is a Vault Boss in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5, and we do have Ultimate Vault Hunter 6 coming soon, so I'll be taking that into consideration. Now, I'll be honest with you right at the start, I do think Harlowe is possibly the strongest character, or Rafa, but I think it is leaning more towards Harlowe right now. I'm having a really good time with her newly changed neutron capture alongside a bit of the green skill tree, but we're first going to be talking about the creative burst, so her red skill tree. This has been changed since my last video where I ranked the different Vault Hunters, but now it's going to convert all of her gunshots into radiation damage. It does 4% of her action skill damage dealt, but this was kind of a nerf, but it opens up new ways for this to be really good because we have so many ways to be able to increase the amount of radiation damage that we're dealing, so that's going to further help out with that. But another really fun synergy that's happening now is that we can actually get this to become an infinite critical hits, and the critical hits were just recently buffed even further with Excited State. We only need 1 point into this green skill tree, and then even crazier, we can get critical funding to get our ammunition back. So there's a lot of ways you can build around this depending on the weapons you want to use. But if you're to stick with just the red skill tree, you're still very powerful because we got skills that are going to increase the overall skill damage here, which is going to increase neutron capture. So right off the rip, this build comes online at level 5 or 6 because then we get neutron capture with a 30% action skill increase. And then we can even just go with an increase to our fire rate, which means that we can output the neutron capture damage even quicker. And then she has points here that'll increase our elemental damage, which will be the radiation damage, and then further increase our radiation damage. Now, I like to go down to the middle part here because the Demon Core capstone is extremely powerful. It shoots off radiation darts that'll irradiate enemies, which we have a lot of benefits from, but this is also going to greatly increase the damage that our action skill deals so that we can get more neutron capture. We also have increased critical hit chance with guns against irradiated enemies, and we're going to be instantly irradiating a lot of them. So that's critical hit chance that we just got flat out. But if we, again, go to the green skill tree, that can further enhance it. She also gets bonus radiation damage, which is huge because bonus damage takes all the different benefits that we do have to our overall gun damage. And then she further increases radiation damage and irradiation chance. Again, we have so many benefits to that. So there's a lot of synergy in this red skill tree, which makes it very powerful. Then the Dirty Bomb capstone skill point here, whenever we irradiate an enemy, we do 40% of the total radiated damage right then and there, which is really good. Now we get skill damage too, which is different from action skill damage. It will still apply to our neutron capture, and 7 points a pop is nice for 35% increase, but it also applies to anything that's like orange letters there, so like the cold welding here, which does a little bit of damage over time, not a crazy high amount. It also gives to the extra unstable pocket you throw out from here. And another thing that makes this build absolutely crazy is we can convert all the damage into cryo and then also be able to get lifesteal and overshield off of that, giving this build a lot of survivability. The red skill tree is just kind of busted in terms of the overall power levels, mostly due to neutron capture. You likely won't be using many of the other augments, and Demon Core being just the best capstone here. I don't need to show it in combat again. You saw it at the start of the video. It's regularly just going to shoot that off. You see all the extras that pop off it. It shoots the darts. You explode it, and then you're just going to shoot your gun. The wombo combo, actually, the rockets will take the extra neutron capture damage, leading to some crazy combos. But this also works great with things like the Stray sniper rifle. It's 3 bullets that'll auto aim. The Bod shotgun's another great one, and the new Rowdy Rider, which just released with the Bounty Pack 1 DLC. So overall, creative burst, great for bossing, great for mobbing. It's just in general one of the best builds in the game and very versatile. You got sustain with lifesteal and overshield. It does a little bit of everything, and you can build into the green skill tree as well. But now we're going to do a deep dive into the green skill tree, and I'll show what it looks like in combat. So the flux generator you throw out, it deals cryo damage over time and entangles enemies. We actually want to get down to the group study. This is a very powerful one, which will follow us around. And if we use nuclear winter augment, this can enhance it even further, which makes it infinite critically hit. We also get increased critical hit damage right up to level 5 there, which is just fantastic to grab. We also get this very powerful neutron decay. When we irradiate an enemy, we get 10% gun damage. This stacks up to 5 times. So that's a lot of extra damage. And you can get a +5 from a class mod. So that can be 100 extra gun damage. It's 100% extra gun damage. Pretty crazy. And that's why I was mentioning the red and green do combine together well, because this can also increase the radiation damage, which will increase our action skill damage. And then Conformative Reality is one of the best abilities in the entire game. This is also fantastic if you have friends that you're playing with. You want to have this on at all times. So whenever Harlowe shoots an entangled enemy, she and all allies restore a portion of their action skill cooldown. When we got a fast firing gun, this triggers really quickly, and you only need like 1 to 2 points in here because that's 1% action skill cooldown per shot. And if you have a very fast firing gun, you get your action skill back pretty much immediately. It's busted. One of the best for playing with friends overall. But what's really cool is all 3 of these have very powerful abilities. We want to take at least 1 point of Excited State at the very beginning because this is going to give us critical hit damage after we do action skill damage. This will trigger off of Nuclear Winter. So this, whenever we're inside our Flux Generator, we get bonus cryo damage or bonus radiation damage. This counts as action skill damage on our gun. So whenever we deal action skill damage, we get an automatic critical hit. So it just makes everything automatically critically hit. It's a ton of fun. We then want to get down here. We can actually get Ricochet off here. It's not going to be as strong as Red skill tree Rafa, which we'll be talking about, but it's still very strong. We also can get Lifesteal, and our allies can get Lifesteal too. So this is actually very powerful if you pair it with someone else that's just not very good at sustaining themselves. And then we can also, whenever we damage an enemy with our action skill, get shield and overshield. So tons of sustain in this right-hand section. The bottom skill trees aren't like super fantastic. Like this will just give us grenades and pencils down sucks. Get increased reload speed when our action skills down, but group study that now makes us follow us around, so then we can pop our ability, and then it's going to give us this damage and automatic critical hits. This is extremely powerful and honestly one of the strongest builds in the game. And since we're getting automatic critical hits, what we can even do is go down here, get 50% gun handling for way better aiming, and then also critical funding. So we get 5 ammunition, 15% chance. This now allows you to use heavy ordnances and also just really any weapon you want, and you'll just have an infinite ammo. This is really good on Chaosin, Bod, or any of the other Toric stickies that scale up the damage as you shoot them. Very powerful. And then we can also get bonus radiation damage on critical hits. So again, now a 40% flat out bonus damage every time we critically hit, and we do that often. You can see where this is going. This isn't even talking about the best skill yet, Decoherence. So whenever we deal damage with all sources to entangled enemies, and enemies that are inside our Flux Generator will get increased damage. So you can get a class mod that takes us up to 50% bonus damage on all enemies, and that's insane. And then it also gives a further 15% increase whenever they're inside it, or 30 if you have a +5 class mod. Bonus damage, again, scales so heavily because if we have that 50% gun damage, that takes all of it. It's really crazy. We also then have some other skills here that are pretty fun. Like I like this one here, bonus damage with guns, melee, and action skills when we have overshield, and the more overshield we have, the better. Because again, we get really good overshield sustain here. So yeah, this also can increase action skill damage. I think you guys understand that the green skill tree is absolutely busted. So we're going to throw it up in the S tier. So what this looks like is we just pop out our little group study here and just get blasting, because now every single shot we take is a critical hit. On things like the bod, you can see the bottom right hand section of my screen here that we're getting infinite ammo. This is where it becomes crazy, because once we switch ammunitions there, the boss's health bar is deleted in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5. This is absurd, and it works on every single boss, and I think this will be really strong in Ultimate Vault Hunter 6 unless they change how fundamentally Toric stickies work. So yeah, 2 of the absolute best. I think the green is possibly the best in the game because infinite critical hits is powerful. Critical hits just got buffed to now be true critical hits, which do even further damage, and it gives you infinite ammo. Enough said. Unfortunately, I can't say the same about Harlowe's Blue skill tree with 0 point. This is great for mobbing, possibly one of the best in mobbing, but mobbing doesn't cut it when we need to fight bosses because this becomes pretty much useless. So you can get some pretty nice buffs here. So when the level cap increases, she's going to be pretty powerful because she can get increased life, health regeneration, increased gun damage whenever you use your action skill. So again, this is really good on other skill trees. So you can get increased critical hit chances, increased gun handling, increased fire rate. So like anything here really does stack up and it's nice, but she doesn't have anything in the skill tree that makes it super powerful. You can get a lot of these abilities from class mods, like the ripple effects. Whenever we kill an entangled enemy, we're going to entangle another. And what's crazy, you can get this to entangle 2 enemies, so you can continually keep entangling more, which is really good again with some of the other skills here. But yeah, there's nothing really great about this. I've done a few different builds. They just all feel kind of weak if you're going against a boss. I will mention that the keep ice on that is really nice. So all crowd damage, Harlowe will get lifesteal from that, which can then also give her overshield. So she does have a pretty decent bit of sustain here with this, but it's just not enough damage output that to really want to use this. If you played through Harlowe and tried this, you'll know that it's very much weaker than her other 2. There doesn't really seem to be many good benefits to this unless you're running a mobbing build. So yeah, I do think that this one will have a hard time, especially in later content, just because it doesn't really specialize in anything particularly good other than mobbing, which it's not even as good as the other 2 at. But I do want to mention that the Skeptic class mod meant for this skill tree is actually really good because whenever we shoot an enemy with an active status effect, this will restore 5% of our action skill cooldown. So you can actually use this on any class to get your action skill back immediately. This can be really good on the red skill tree if you don't want to do an investment into the green to still get the kind of conformative reality action skill back really fast using this. And next we'll be looking at Vex and her incarnate Vexcalation skill tree, which another extremely powerful green skill tree. There's a few really good builds here. Now, Bloodshot's very powerful, especially if you can get a class weapon with a +5, because that gives you 100% bonus damage based on your current health. Obviously, very powerful there. And then we can get crazy lifesteal 20% from this, 45% extra skill damage. And skill damage is really good for Vex because bleed is a skill. And we can get a lot of extra stacks off of that. Bloodshot is another skill. Her action skill is considered a skill. So she has 3 of these that can be affected. She also has Blood is Power, giving bonus kinetic damage, which is huge because it's based on our life steal, and we can get ourselves up to 40% life steal. So 1.2 times. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Then there's also some really fun abilities if you want to spec around using a rep kit, because you do need to use that for Bloodshot. But there's a class mod that lets you, whenever you kill a target with a sniper rifle, get Bloodshot for free. And then every critical hit gets a 33% chance, which does stack really fast with the stray sniper rifle shooting 3 bullets at a time. She can also get critical hit chance against any enemy at any time. I do like pairing this with the red skill tree for enchantment, which when our action skill damage is active, we get 37.5% bonus kinetic damage. That's really good because our incarnate is active for a long time, especially when we use the heart piercer here, which is going to use our health. This is a really powerful skill tree. And what makes this actually pretty strong is we can do some of the similar things to Harlowe. So we can go in here, use our ability with the Witchy Trigger Finger Augment. We can basically get our action skill back, so we get infinite ammo. That was not the best showing of that, but whenever I switched my magazine types, if I would have got a few more off, it would have killed the boss. But you see it's shredding. Beware of the splash damage, though. And the nice thing about this is every time you use that, you're going to get your health back, too. So this can go really powerfully if you're doing, like, going full in on your life steal here. And, yeah. Anything with Torque Stickies is going to be a powerful weapon there. You see the boss's health bar disappear way too quickly. It's the same thing with the Harlowe skill tree. This can be very powerful, but the life steal gives her... Honestly, I think that the green skill tree has the best sustain that we've ever gotten in a Borderlands game before. Even Zane, who had some pretty crazy things, was not as strong as this. So I guess to rank the green skill tree, it's tough because the green skill tree Harlowe is just so incredibly powerful. But I do think Incarnate Vex is really good too. I might even just put it into the above the red skill tree. This is higher damage, but it can go down really quickly. And actually, the best build to use with this is to use the class mod that drains your health to 1 when you activate your action skill, which can give you life steal and sustain you. But you can sometimes go down while using that, and that's to maximize your damage. Whereas green skill tree Vex just has so much survivability. It's really tough. This one's so defensive, it's kind of hard to rank. But I do think in Ultimate Vault Hunter 6 with the coming bosses that it's probably going to be better to use green skill tree Vex here, especially because it does have a really nice flow to it with the Witchy Trigger Finger giving us our ammunition back and the gun damage boost, Heart Piercer giving us even further health sustain, and then the Essence Leech giving us even further health sustain whenever we're interaction skills. So yeah, I think this one's really good. Now, I really like the Phase Familiar, and I did get some people really upset when I said that it is a little bit weaker than the other skill trees, but I still mean it. It is a little bit weaker than the other skill trees. It is fun, and it's great for solo play, don't get me wrong, but if you're in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5, it does fall off in the damage output. So that's what I meant. I didn't mean to offend anyone, so I am sorry. I do want to apologize here, because I did get some very mean worded messages. But the red skill tree does lack damage. That's the biggest problem, because the Phase Familiar does miss a lot of its attacks. It's mostly going to be melee. It can fly and shoot at the targets, but you'll note that the damage is not that high. But it has some of the best skill points at the very start. Like getting 20% damage reduction and 15% movement speed for 3 points is a great investment. This here, when our action skill is active, giving a 37.5% bonus damage, a fantastic on our green skill tree. There's some very specific ones like kill skill, getting overshield, that really kind of sucks. But you can go with some of the other options here to really beef it up. It also has a melee component, so whenever there may be a good melee build or a melee weapon and like face puncher in the future, this would be pretty strong. But a lot of these aren't really focused around one specific area, kind of what I was mentioning with like the blue skill tree for Harlowe, where it's good mobbing, decent sustain, but honestly, with how good sustain you get from the green skill tree, it's hard to say that this one is better in all honesty, but it is fun. I do think this is a fun one. It's fun to play with the cat. I really like Trouble, don't get me wrong. It's actually one of my favorite builds in the game, but I do want to note that if you're playing high level in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5, that damage fall off is kind of apparent. Like this one here just gives you 4% minion critical hit chance, and the minion's critical hit damage is not going to be really that great. Like that's a very small boost of damage when a critical only does 100% extra damage. Yeah, this is really not that great. There are some good ones like Grave Thirst here, but you can actually get this from one of the skill trees for the Teen Witch class mod, which will give you life steal over stacks, which is crazy good. So yeah, compared to the other skill trees that Vex has, this one does come a little bit weaker. This is a tough one. I would say it's C tier, but I do like it for solo play. If you're playing solo, you're going to have a fun time with this, and it's enough sustain. You can spec in and use the Teen Witch class mod to kind of give you like a hybrid green and red skill tree combination. So that's one way to make it pretty decent, but I do think that this one is best utilized if you're just playing solo. This is because the Dead Ringer is just a lot better. So with the Dead Ringer, one of the things that makes this really powerful is that we have summons that we can bring in, and they can do a lot of crazy stuff. There's the Spectres, which can copy our gun if we go down and take the Heirloom here, which copies whatever weapon we have in our main hand. There's a lot of fun combinations there. There's also the Grim Reaper, which is pretty fun. It's powerful, but not as strong as going with the Dark Pact. This is pretty crazy because it gives us 2 augments, and there's a couple augments that are really good with the Coven giving our minions health regeneration, and Hellish Harvest giving them more health regeneration. So the common way you'd want to play this is get like the Cursed Blade, which is really cool, doing kinetic status effect damage, and that can be affected by Ars Arcana, so this will scale pretty well later on whenever there's future DLC and the level cap increase. She can get a lot of really fun abilities here. Like the blue skill tree does have a lot of very useful abilities. The Reoccurrence giving you increased gun or melee damage. This is a full all out like melee build. Reverberations here is extremely good. So melee damage dealt by Vex for her minions has a chance to deal incendiary melee damage. So this does 50% chance, and its damage dealt is 150% of the initial damage dealt. This is really good. And the great thing about it is that procs really often whenever we use our minions here. So Reverberations, very good. But we also got the Harasplex here where we can throw a phase dagger, and this will do a good chunk of damage. And we can actually kind of cheese this and get this back really quickly. And yeah, there's some fun combination you can do with certain class mods here. The blue skill tree is very powerful though, just between the 3 choices here. So my usual loadout when we're doing this is running Coven, Hellish Harvest, and the Dark Pact here. And what's nice, you can get an additional charge of Dreadbringer, which is cool, or you can get a free one when your health drops low. So with this build, you can summon either the Reapers or the Spectres again, depending on how you want to build around this. You can only have 3 out at a time, but the thing is, they're going to have a really good amount of sustain, so you just kind of have to watch your team to make sure that you're not running too low on health. This build obviously does really well with the bod because the damage is pretty good. I'll stop shooting the bod pellets there just so you can see that they do an okay job, but their health bars are not moving. That's where these are really strong, is that they can just sustain themselves so well. They do have an ever-increasing amount of health loss, but this can be... You can lose that by using the capstone there, which will then give them immunity to all damage, and then they'll reset the timer on that. So, yeah, they do have a really crazy amount of sustain that's actually very powerful, and the damage output's pretty good. And part of what makes this so good is that, unlike the Trouble skill tree, is that these have really good homing on abilities. They'll chase down enemies way better than this one does. And the cool thing is they can actually hit enemies that are hiding inside walls. I've had that happen so many times in my first playthrough, whereas the Phase Familiar has a struggle time really hitting anything that's not like right in front of it. And sometimes it struggles when there's like barriers up, whereas these, they just fly around and they cleave through it with their Hellish Harvest. So yeah, the blue skill tree is really strong. I'd have to say that this is a tier. Yeah, I don't want to offend people again because I did get some really mean messages. Yeah, probably around there. And next up, we got one of the best skill trees, I think, ever with Peacebreaker Cannon's red skill tree Rafa. Now, this is powerful right off the rip because we get Sitier here giving us 25% bonus gun damage. We can also get increased action skill duration restored when we critically hit enemies, letting us stay in Peacebreaker Cannons pretty much infinitely because there's lots of ways to get critical hits in this game. Now, we also got really great skill trees that give us increased skill damage. We can get damage reduction when we're in our action skill, which is actually really powerful. We also then get this skill tree here, which is the best for if you want to do ricochets, because this will give us indirect projectile damage. This also counts if you're throwing a weapon or anything that's just coming out of you. So like if you're using the rocket shield, the fireworks, that'll apply to that. We also get Errant Sparks. These will give us bonus incendiary damage, and indirect projectiles that already deal fire damage double the bonus damage. So bonus damage being really good again in this game. We can also get lifesteal off of all of our indirect projectiles. And what's good about this is even just 10% is crazy, so we only need 1 point here. We can also ricochet if we're sliding. We can get additional ricochets on our attacks. The beam team here, which has a shocking corrosive beam, is also a pretty powerful combination. You can further get more ricochet abilities, increase bonus damage on our ordnances based on our gun's element, which is really strong. You can also get increased splash damage. Temerario, which is really powerful, giving us a big boost to our gun damage. And they just fixed Soltado to now give us increased overdrive bonuses, meaning that we can get our gun damage up extremely high. So just showing this off, the Bullet Buddy Deluxe lets us use the bod really well too. So this can be obviously really strong because the bod just very powerful weapon. You can see the spread getting really wide, and that's the Temerario giving us the increased damage here. And then if we go to our inventory and check our gun damage here, we got a plus 454.9% gun damage, plus 50% gun damage dealt, plus 40% kinetic damage, plus 255% skill damage, plus 30% melee damage, and then 45% bonus action damage, and then a 62.5% damage reduction. So yeah, this skill tree is absurd. And then on top of that, you also have the torque stickies that do crazy work. You do get really inaccurate if you're using Temerario, but the damage output is so good off of that. So This is one of the easiest skill trees to use because Bullet Buddy Deluxe at level 6 just works so well through the entire game. It's powerful. You got really good capstones that increase your damage. I really like the double auto shot because those critical hits do give your action skill damage or action skill time back. But yeah, it combines together to put a lot of good things in one skill tree. Kind of similar to Green Skill Tree Harlowe, where everything is just so synergetic. I think that this is the second best. It's really close between Cosmic Brilliance and Peace Breaker Cannons. Like, honestly, they're both really good. Cosmic Brilliance gets a slight edge because it also boosts up your allies quite a bit, giving them their action skills back really fast, but it's also really good on solo play with good sustain. That's the only thing that this build kind of misses is a bit of sustain. You do have the lifesteal, but that doesn't give you overshield. Quite like you do have the Cosmic Brilliance there. You do have really good damage reduction too, so that is one point that's really powerful on this build, but overall, I think this is really fun. Now, the green and blue skill trees for Rafa are interesting in the fact that it's best for us to actually use the action skill with a completely other skill tree. Oddly enough, with the green skill tree, which we'll focus on first, Arc Knives, we get the Midnight Oil, which will actually give us a good boost in bonus corrosive damage. So this can give us 50% extra bonus corrosive damage, but we're going to take Altered Cabron. So where this build is really strong is whenever we gain health, we get bonus corrosive damage and gain increased movement speed. So we want to get this stacking and then go all in our blue skill tree, because once we get down to here, I did post a build on this if you're curious. Per my last can actually make it so that you deal your action skill damage again. So what happens is when using the Alter Cabron, this gives us a bonus damage, and it kind of just keeps switching between these two and just triggering the damage into a really weird loop where we get a ton of damage back. So it's really fun that way. However, if we're to just stick with the green skill tree, this build is a lot weaker, unfortunately. The best build is honestly taking green and going into the blue to get per my last, and then you can get a class mod that really enhances it. The problem with the green skill tree is melee builds are just so weak, and right now we don't have something like the face puncher from previous Borderlands games where the gun will deal melee damage. So all these bonuses to melee damage would apply to the gun, and we don't have that right yet. So I can see this potentially in the future story packs being pretty strong, but we don't have those right yet, so I can't say that this is that powerful. Outside of that one cheesy build, this Arc Knives is kind of a little bit lackluster. I'm going to have to say it's not as bad feeling as Seize the Day because you can still do stuff against bosses, but melee builds are in a really weird spot right now where they're just not that powerful, but I do see that changing in the future. Now, much like our green skill tree, the blue skill tree, oddly enough, is better when in another skill tree too. Believe it or not, we can take down to get like some of the really fun class mod or the fun capstones here, but they're not really the most powerful. Oddly enough, the best way to do this is to get the blue skill tree, take the battery subscription service, which will give us plus 50% skill damage whenever we use this. But basically, we make it so that when we consume 4 or more charges, we get increased action skill damage, and we get an additional charge. When we have 4 charges, we can use a class mod that lets us fire this at 4 charges infinitely, and the damage is really high. But we only get the damage from going into the red skill tree and then going down and taking some of the other points here. So it is a little bit tricky. I do have a build on that as well. The Apophis Lance, though, is stronger than the green skill tree at base. If you were to just stick in this skill tree, it does have nice bonuses like increased gun damage when you're overdrive, ordnance damage after reloading our gun. It just does a lot of really good things and has a good power cap, I would say. The overall damage output is higher if you're going to stick with this one. So I'd have to say this one's probably a probably B tier. Again, the weird thing about Rafa is that his blue skill tree is best when using his red, his green skill tree is best when using his blue, and his red skill tree is just a really fantastic build. It stays in red. And ending off with Amon, who's actually extremely powerful. Now, the blue skill tree, I would say, is his strongest here because ordnance damage on this is nuts. The reason that is so good, we get Scorched Kairos level 1 through 5, giving us bonus damage there and magazine size. So this is great early on in the game. Cryonic Thrum gives us a nice boost to our damage. But the tail of the comments, when we deal ordnance damage, there's a chance to apply a cryo status effect that deals cryo damage over time, and this is affected by status application chance. This is great because whenever Amon applies a status effect to an enemy, there's a chance to partially restore his shields and ammo. So this is a 25% chance when we do a status, and we apply these statuses multiple times per second. So we got shield regeneration and ammo regeneration pretty much nonstop. You can also use a different skill tree that'll give you the endless bombardment so that heavy ordnances have a chance to refund ammunition on damaging enemies, which again just kind of chains back to give you an infinite amount of ammunition. It's not fully necessary, but it can help out if you're messing things up and you start losing ammunition, but you won't. Ancient Ways giving us increased cryo damage because we're getting a bunch of extra cold damage boosts. And what's crazy about this is it actually is best without using the capstone, but the capstones are pretty strong across the board. The reason we don't use the capstone is we can actually use Firewall without one, and this will give us increased projectile speed and damage so that our heavy ordnances do more damage. So what this looks like is we got the disc jockey here just shooting it off, the disc jockey will bounce. I guess I didn't get the full infinite ammo because I wasn't shooting it right at enemies. But yeah, those will just home in and take down extra enemies. And the firewall there is going to boost it up. Another thing is there's a lot of other really good heavy ordnances here, like the Atling gun, which will auto aim onto targets. And you can see from the bottom right hand side of the screen that we are just getting infinite ammo there. That's because whenever we're shooting this, we're actually going to be stacking up the statuses really quickly. I missed a bunch of shots there, but you get the idea. So this will let you infinitely fire. This also works pretty well if you can consistently land a bunch of shots with a gun like the Wombo combo, because this will regenerate its ammunition as well. But this is just good for mobbing, bossing, and you name it, because you can actually get a lot of really good ordnances, and there's likely going to be more really good heavy ordnances as well. This is because there's an interesting double dip. So a heavy ordnance is considered a heavy gun ordnance. So if you get a bonus to gun damage, it applies to this. But it also takes any benefits to ordnance damage. And then with certain things like this, ordnance damage receives 50% of gun damage. So if you get something that adds 100% gun damage, it'll now give you 150% gun damage on your heavy ordnance. So a lot of synergies, very powerful. And I would have to say that the blue skill tree is possibly maybe a little bit better than Creative Burst Harlowe, just because you can get a heavy ordnance there that not only gives you a ton of damage, but you have really good life sustain, because this can also give you 15% of your shield restored as well, 25% chance. So once you're firing something like the Atling gun, which shoots 100 million rounds per second, tracking this all together, it becomes extremely strong. Now, unfortunately, with the red skill tree for Amon, it falls into the trap that the other melee builds, like the green skill tree for Rafa, has, where melee is just not that good at this current moment. You do get some good sustain here, and I like the thought of this. It's really fun. You get this big hammer, and you can go around slamming. You got really powerful abilities. The red skill tree Amon's actually probably going to be one of the best for heavy or higher levels, and it's actually one of the best if you're going into the blue skill tree because of Berserk here, which will give us bonus cryo damage with gun and melee damage, which is 30% bonus cryo damage. But then we also got There Is Only Red, and we get a bonus to our overall cryo damage. So we can do a 600% bonus cryo damage. This was nerfed. It used to be 9 seconds that this would sustain into this. Now it's only 4 seconds, so you have to kill a lot of enemies to be getting this to work. But it's still really strong, so I do want to mention how powerful it is. But the thing is, again, melee's not that great. He does have some sustain, giving him overshield on melee damage dealt. This is where I think, again, if we have a face puncher type gun in the game, this is going to be really powerful, because he has this here giving him bonus melee damage and skill damage. And again, there's a lot of really good skills that the characters can have. So this combines together to be pretty synergetic in certain ways if melee comes together and is strong. That's the thing. It's a big if, but I do think that this one is maybe, it's tough. If you use the cheesy build for Rafa, it's better, but I do think as a whole, Calamity is a little bit better. And Calamity could actually go probably like low B tier. It really just depends. Berserk's so powerful, but melee builds are just in a really weird spot where I think, yeah, we'll set that probably comfortably there. I guess one other thing to mention is Dragon's Breath is pretty strong too. So whenever Amon activates his ordnance, his next gunshot is converted into incendiary damage, dealing damage to enemies and staggering them as well. This is pretty strong, but I do think it is not as strong as his blue skill tree, unfortunately. And then finally, we got the Crucible or Cybernetic skill tree. This is one of the most interesting and fun. You can also melee with the axes. I just want to mention that right now, is that when you pull them out, you can melee with them and get a little extra damage there. So this is going to combine well with the red skill tree, I think, in the future. Again, this is going to be pretty powerful. But the thing is with the green skill tree is that the forge drones just suck. They suck. This can give you an extra forge drone. It does a little bit of damage. You can also get a cryo one. You can get a shock one. And they just suck. So summon builds are kind of hard to make strong because they can be super overpowered. But if you want to summon Vex, it's probably a lot better with their blue skill tree. This one just lacks a lot of the damage output that the other skill trees have, most notably like its blue skill tree with all those ordinances and the powerful melee attacks that we do get here. You don't really get the same power melee here. You can swing with them and you can prime enemies and deal extra damage, but the damage output isn't as high as the others, just cut and dry. So Cybernetics, we're probably going to say is probably, it's not as good as the red skill tree, I don't think so. We're probably going to set it around here. But each of the characters has a very powerful build. I do post builds every single week for Borderlands 4, so you can subscribe if you find that interesting. But this is what I think. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Green skill tree or Harlowe is just so powerful, especially with the recent change to critically hits. Peacebreaker, Rafa, most easy to play and extremely powerful build. Green skill tree, Vex does require a bit more attention, but it is strong with the best sustain. The only reason I'm putting this up so high is that sustain is so good on this. It could even be a little bit higher. Like, I've really debated where it goes between Peacebreaker Cannons, but Peacebreaker Cannons just has so much higher damage output. Vengeance, really powerful with infinite ordinances. It's really hard to rank all of these here. The S tier is really powerful, but there's a lot of strong, overpowered builds in Borderlands 4. Subscribe for more of those, and hope you have a great day. We'll catch you in the next one.